Hey guys, Lytane here, and welcome to my Tarzan month. I tried to think of a great pun, but couldn't get further than Tarzan and June. I know, it's pretty bad. To kick off Tarzan and June month, yep, that's what I'm gonna call it, we'll be having a look at the Disney movie simply called Tarzan. Tarzan and June. Disney's Tarzan was released in 1999 and is considered to be the last movie in the Renaissance period, which started with The Little Mermaid. Unlike a lot of the stories that Disney tells, this is not an original work, nor is it an adaptation from a public domain work. Instead, it is based on the story Tarzan by Edgar Rice Burroughs. Because of this, Tarzan is a bit of a strange movie and series compared to all the other works, but we'll get into that later. Though it is based off of Edgar's story, the plot of the film really only follows the general ideas and concepts found from the books. Tarzan and his family are in a massive storm and become shipwrecked in Africa. While they try and survive, Sabor has a different idea. Meanwhile, Kala and her gorilla tribe are celebrating the birth of their new child. Sabor once again has a different idea. Tarzan miraculously survives and Kala hears him cry. In a bizarre twist of fate, she decides to raise Tarzan as though he were her own, despite Kerchak, her husband and leader of the gorillas, saying otherwise. 20 years later, Tarzan does get the shock of his life when he discovers that he isn't the only hairless ape in the world. Now, Tarzan as a movie breaks a lot of the conventions that Disney had set up during their Renaissance period. First off, this is not a traditional musical. At no point do any of the characters sing a song. Secondly, only one artist, Phil Collins, was commissioned to do all of the songs in the movie instead of having multiple people work on them. Of said songs, many don't even fall into the traditional conventions either. There is no I Want song or villain song here. This movie also uses a lot of CGI mixed with hand-drawn animation and is the most that Disney has used of this so far. So let's look at that animation now. Tarzan is a beautiful looking film. The characters are all hand-drawn and have nice movement. From the slower, more powerful movements of the gorillas, the more awkward movements of the humans, or the live movement of the jaguar. But the backdrops here are my favorite. Many of the movie's backdrops are watercolored art. While they are a stark contrast to the animation in the foreground, I think they bring out the beauty and the wonder in the film. I really like how they are simple and often don't have much detail. They're just really nice to look at. But Disney didn't want just another Tarzan story with the same animation style from their other Disney films, so they wanted to try something different here. They wanted Tarzan to look like he was indeed Lord of the Jungle, that he had some kind of mastery over it. They chose to show this by the way that Tarzan moves through the world, which gave birth to tree sliding. Based on the movements of skateboarding, which was the popular thing at the time due to Tony Hawk games, mixed with a little bit of surfing to create this riding of the trees. This is iconic to this movie, and it still looks great. The mix of watercolor backgrounds, the CGI trees, and the hand-drawn Tarzan, it's all blended together so well to create some of the most incredible sequences of the film. I can also blend things. Here in this review with my cut-up movie moments, I can also add a subscribe button. Yep, super seamless. If you like what you're seeing, then clicking subscribe really helps out the channel. And I also have a Discord server if you want to chat more about the movies or anything else really. I'm always open to chat. I also launched a Patreon because everyone is one of those, right? If you want to support me and the channel, then I would love you and appreciate you so much, and probably be a little bit awkward about it all. All of these are in the description down below if you want to find them. So the animation is still gorgeous, but how does it stand as a movie? Well, the story and plot are alright. While Disney changed many things, like Tarzan being raised by gorillas instead of apes, the core of the story is still there. The movie, though, is split into two distinct halves. The first half is Tarzan and the jungle, and the second is the introduction of the humans to this world. The pace of the film is good. Nothing feels too rushed or too slow. The characters are not overly complex, but they are really likable. They can all be described in just a few words. Tarzan and his stoic nature, Jane and her flustered busted British humor, Porter and his wacky ideas, Clayton and his smooth insanity, Kerchak and his strength over perceived weakness, Carla and her new love, Turk with her support and friendship, and Tantor with his nervousness. When I rewatched the film, I found Jane to be a lot funnier than I remembered her being, with one of my favorite scenes being when she's describing meeting Tarzan to her dad and Clayton. And fun fact, a lot of that scene was improvised by Minnie Driver, the voice actor for Jane, and the reactions were also made up, and it's just hilarious. I also love how single-minded Clayton is with his pursuit of the gorillas. He is always in Tarzan's face, no matter what is going on, and the desperation here is so thick, it's just funny. I also like that the evolution of his character is from a sophisticated hunter to one consumed by his animal side. It's a great juxtaposition to Tarzan, who becomes more human as the movie goes on. But like I said, it's all just alright. Nothing really stands out aside from the opening of the movie. Seeing Tarzan orphaned and then found by Carla is amazing. Most of the story being told is through visuals and Phil Collins music, and it's fantastic. Also, the Son of Man song near the middle of the film is a great visual spectacle, but there isn't really anything else that really wows me in this film. Maybe it was Disney being safe, or maybe it was because they weren't sure what to do, but until right near the end, my wife and I weren't really feeling too much. We had the odd chuckle and it was gorgeous to watch, but we weren't captivated. It may be due to the large cast, but I think it's because the movie is split into two halves, and those two halves don't really interact with each other much. The main antagonist of the first half, Sabor, doesn't even interact with the cast from the second half, and he's just kind of forgotten about. No one talks about him or mentions him after he is disposed of. Tarzan is the rock amongst all of this, and compelling, but I just wish the surrounding cast and story helped support him more. I just wish these two worlds were like one family. What does help to tie it together is Phil Collins. His music acts as a narrator to the film, and his lyrics are on point for what is happening on screen. Apparently he improvised a few of the songs when he first read the script, refining them as the movie was developing. This helped shape that narrator feel as he was singing about the journey and what was happening on screen. Then, You'll Be in My Heart was written more as a lullaby for Tarzan, and Two Worlds as the big number for the film. Trust me, it was. They used that song in pretty much all Tarzan properties. My wife did think that the songs sounded a little bit too similar to each other, but that was kind of the point, to make them all feel like they are part of this jungle story, so they have similar sounds. Instead of drastically different styles, Phil Collins opted to make things more sonically related. Now for some random fun facts and stuff that I didn't know where to put anywhere else. The first is the iconic Tarzan yell. It was not done by Tony Goldwyn, the voice actor, because he couldn't do it. Instead, Brian Blessed, the voice actor for Clayton, kept telling Disney that yeah, he could do it, but they didn't really listen to him and kept brushing him off, until one day Brian just belted it into their faces. They were so impressed that they recorded it, and that's the thing that we hear in the film. The second fun fact is the status of Jane as a Disney princess. Now, Disney is pretty extreme with their rules for a Disney princess, so Jane meets none of those criteria. So Disney owns pretty much everything now, but what they don't own, they're pretty wary of. And if you remember, Tarzan is owned by the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate. So when you want to make a Tarzan piece of media, you need to get the rights from the estate holder. Disney scored some good rights with their contract stating that they can use these characters for X years. Then anything they made in those X years can still be used, sold, and the like, but anything new has to have a renewed license. So if they wanted to make Jane as a princess, then any new merchandise or media that they put her face on, they'd have to keep renewing the contract, and that puts too much power in someone else's hands. That's why after the mid-2000s, we never see anything from this world again. It's crazy, but that's the path they decided to take, and because of that, Tarzan gets the raw end of the jungle stick. With all of those tangents done, I will say that Disney's Tarzan is worth it, because it is a beautiful movie. I was enthralled by the world presented. The animation and the backgrounds are just gorgeous. The characters are a little shallow, but they are fun to watch, and I think the movie being in two parts does kind of hurt the overall feel of it. It starts off incredibly strong, but doesn't ride that strength all the way through. The music is good, and Two Worlds has been stuck in my head ever since watching this movie, as well as the Trash in the Camp song. Shoo-wop-dee-doo. And while Disney might not not want to renew the Tarzan brand. While they did have it, they pushed out as much content as they could, with video games, movies, and a TV show. So hopefully you'll join me in the further Tarzan and June month. Yep, it's what it's going to be called. So guys, tell me what you thought about Disney's Tarzan. Did you like it? Did you hate it? And did you want the two major villains, Sabor and Clayton, to interact a little bit more, or are you happy with the way that the film presented itself? Even though this is the first video where I mentioned Patreon, I've had it for a little while. So a big thank you and shout out to my very first Patreons, Ashley Marie, Aaron Hale Harding, Levi Wanders Turner, and the one that backed at the highest tier because he's absolutely crazy, Mark Smith. Thank you guys so much. You guys are my first Patreons, and now you're immortalized in this video, and I'm just lost for words. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Bye!